So all the things that we just learned in the previous section do apply here, except in regards to the actual website layout. But in terms of the principles of writing good copy and making sure that it's searchable, they're definitely relevant for social media. So in regards to social media, we've seen lots of stats out there, but we all know that it's really important for what we're doing in terms of communicating with our audience, because everyone's using it and different people are using different things. Okay, so why is content important for social media? Well, we have touched on it quite a bit. It's basically because social media uses algorithms similar to Google, and Google and these social media algorithms do look at content and how content's structured. There's a few different things. So the other positive with content and also a negative is that it can deter or it can convert users, as Ali mentioned earlier. So the main thing that you want to do is you want to create engagement. You've all got goals, you've all got KPIs, you've all got objectives. How can you use those, get those objectives achieved through your content? That's what you need to be considering, and we're going to give you a few tips on how to do that. The other thing is increasing your site traffic and your conversion, so actually getting people to come back to your website or to come to your social media and actually use your social media. There's so many Facebook pages sitting out there with no one visiting them. So it's really important to create good content so people want to come back. If you lose them after a few terrible posts, you may not get them back. So it's really important to consider that. Some of the other things too is it can reduce your actual marketing costs overall. So if you can communicate and put good content out through your social media, then you're reducing your other marketing costs because you're not putting out printed collateral. The other things is you can create new partnerships and engagement with the community as well. So good content on social media has to be relevant to the platform, and we're going to go specifically in the next section on how to make it relevant to the actual platform you're targeting. What you put on Instagram is very different to what you put on Facebook. Sometimes you have a completely different content strategy for every different social media, and we'll go through that. The main thing you want to consider is it has to be punchy, it has to be attention grabbing, especially with Twitter when you've got character limits. You have to get to the point, you have to get to the point fast, and you have to make people want to click on you and follow you. And often you want a call to action. You've got to think, what's the purpose of this communication? Why am I putting this out there? What do I want them to do? If you don't get that across, you don't get the action. So you need to do that. I just put an example here. I came across this because actually I'm from WA and I live in the city of Stirling. I thought this was really interesting because when I went to their social media page, they actually have a Facebook page for every division of the council, which is maybe a bit of overkill. But I can see what they're doing is that they've got different markets. So the main thing that they're considering is I've got a different market with a different purpose, with a different objective I'm trying to achieve, and they respond to information differently. Maybe they thought, libraries might be the older generation, they need this sort of information, whereas, the skate park or the arts festival will be the younger generation, so we need to put a different message there. So I see what they did there, and there's another council that I noticed that did that. Yes. So I did stop all of you. To see that, what level you're at with your social media, and I've provided specific feedback, not with your name on it, but I put some feedback in there of how you can sort of improve what you're doing. I thought this was good because you did target different areas. Like I said, the library's going to have a different market to the Rundle Mall. You'd have a different message that you put out there, so I thought this was good. As long as, I guess, they're all updated is the main thing. If you've got so many that you can't update them and you don't have fresh content, there's no point. You're better off sticking with one. So things to remember, and we will go through this, multimedia works. So you want to have different types of messages you're putting out. So some things will be very well suited to video, and we'll go through that. Some will be better, with just text, but I also believe that anything with text should have an image with it. I really do, because it increases the engagement at least 5-fold plus. I've had a look at all of our stats across our social media, and the ones with images are the ones that get the engagement. And people don't really read things these days. People are so fast, they're looking on their phone or their tablets, they don't have time to sit there and read a novel. So if you can break it up with headings, as Ali gave all of the information earlier, you break up your content, people are going to view it. And the other thing is to make it memorable. I came across this guy on Twitter. He vowed to sketch every new Twitter follower he had. So he had a massive increase in followers, and 8,000% change in his Twitter followers after this campaign. So if you can be creative and be memorable, you get more action. I just want to know who's responsible for Snap Send Solve? Yeah, is it Gladstone? I thought that was a really good app. So there's an app from one of the government departments.
Yeah, we're not responsible for the answer, but we are using it.
You're using it, okay. I really like that app.
It's a private company that set it up for councils, and councils are all tagged into it, but it's not council or government owned, it's a private company.
It's a really great initiative. Yeah, so I thought that's a really good idea. So those are the things that, are thinking, how can we serve our user? How can we provide what our user wants in a creative way are really good. So that's a great example. Does everyone know about Snap Send Solve? Who wants to explain it? It's
a site that you can basically report, geolocate where you are to report something to a council. So it takes geolocation, and if there's a fence down, signpost down, whatever, you can take a photo, you can send it, and it works out what council it's in and sends it to a generic council email address. So some councils like it, some councils don't like it, because if they're not tagged into a correct email address, residents get upset because it hasn't been responded to. So those councils who are switched on will usually make sure that contact Snap Send themselves say, look, we'd prefer you to use customer relations email address or something that can be kicked into their CRM response. So it's a system that a lot of councils have initially been against, but I think most considering there are other apps around now. Like in South Australia, we've got a My Local Services app, which councils can join, and they have added things into it, so events, listings, what fee you should put out, on what day for all the councils that are registered at those sorts of things. So
yeah, it's a really good point. Thank you for that. You've really got to consider your medium, because as you said, if it's not getting used and people aren't getting responded to, they get angry. So it's the same with your Facebook, with your Twitter. If people are posing questions on there, that's usually what happens with Twitter. I had a problem with my bank. I couldn't log into my bank, so I tweeted Commonwealth Bank, and they said, "I'll just call us on the phone number." It's just frustrating. So either you do it that way, or you have an alternative, or you've got to communicate a clear message and use the right medium for it. And some of those things, having an app is clunky. It might just be better to have a video on your website about which bin to put out. So there's different ways of handling it. Okay, so in terms of social media content suggestions, you want to consider things like new developments, new initiatives, those sort of things, but the way that you put out that content, I think, is even more important than the content itself. Like I said, if you can pose questions, if you can make it interesting, if you can find some sort of human interest part of it, or even get the general public to give you some of that content, that'll make much more of a splash than if you just push out content all the time in the same way. You've got to consider things that are changing in the industry, what people are most concerned about. You've got to consider things that they want to know that will better their life, that will also reflect the personality and brand of your council. And you want to tailor your message. Like I said, different channels have different ways of communicating. We'll go through that. There's a little example on the bottom from Woolworths. So this is what I meant by user-generated content. So someone took a photo of stocking up on some chop bombs that they got from Woolworths, and that's how Woolworths is using user content to populate its social media. And it has much more effect than your own population of content, because people like it, they share it to all their friends. Look, Woolworths posted my post, and it goes everywhere, and that's how you can go viral. The other thing you want to do as well is don't overly self-promote. You want to consider the voice that you're putting out there, and like Ali said, it should be about them. It shouldn't all be all about, we're wonderful, we're great. It would be like, yes, we're good and we've got some problems, but what do you guys want, and how can we serve you better? You want to localise the content, and that relates back to that pigeon update I talked about earlier. You want to make sure that it does tie into local organisations, local businesses, that sort of thing, to increase your reach. You want to have a unique voice as well. It's harder to get angry with Brenda responding on behalf of the council than it is just the council itself. So if you can have sort of a personalised voice, it can sometimes help, sometimes it's not appropriate, but it's just something to consider, that when you write your responses, that it's more personal, especially on Facebook. And you want to be entertaining, so you will get people, we'll go through this, trolls, basically writing bad things and just trying to start arguments for the sake of getting some attention, but you want to consider how you respond. So we got this one here where Leanne Willie had written to Woolworths, and actually, because they responded so well, it got to a point where she said, "I'm sorry, Woolworth, I had a bad day, your toys are lovely, I'm sorry for being rude." And then the way that Woolworths respond is quite warm and friendly, and they keep a consistent tone with all responses, and even have a little bit of fun with it sometimes, so that can really help. So I did mention earlier multimedia, so we really want to consider adding imagery to whatever we're posting, and video is getting embraced more than ever, and Sharmini will actually go through that. So video is really powerful, especially for what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so how do you write for Facebook? We will go through Facebook in quite a lot of detail. This is just sort of the shorts on copywriting. And then after we've done sort of the shorts on copywriting for each social media, we'll have a quick break. So basically for Facebook, again, I have gone through everyone's Facebook that's in this room. The main thing I would say is some of the posts are a little bit long. So you just want to shorten the language a bit. You want to post some questions. You want to make it a little bit more conversational instead of just like a news article. You want to make it a bit more personal. That would be my feedback on the Facebook stuff that I've seen. And like Ali mentioned, you want to put something there that people want to share. So if one of your users is sharing a really nice story and you put that on there, they're going to share it with their families, going to share it with their friends, and it's going to go further. You also want to make it action orientated. Some of the posts I read on the Facebook's in the room, and also in general, it doesn't tell you anything, like it doesn't direct you to do anything, it doesn't convert. Some things need to convert, some things don't, but it is also good to have sort of a point or what you need to do after you've read that post. The other thing I would suggest is, as I mentioned earlier, pose more questions, make it more about the user. You will find that once you start to post some questions, you actually get more feedback and responses. So one of the ways we learn all this stuff is because you can't study this. As soon as you study it, it's already old. The way that we know this stuff and the way that we conduct these workshops and seminars is playing with it. So we do it for ourselves. You know, we see it with our clients, but mainly with ourselves, we can be a bit more risky. So we can try a few things. We can put a few riskier posts out there and see what works and what doesn't work. And from what I've seen from all of our social media across nationally, the main thing that's worked a lot with reach is asking questions and having personal engagement and photos, and also links and videos and that sort of thing. I don't really like emoticons too much. I think it can look a bit cheesy and can sometimes look a bit unprofessional if you have all these smiley faces and things going on. How to write for Twitter. So as I said, it's much, much shorter. The other thing you want to consider with Twitter is don't use all the characters, because if someone wants to retweet it, they'll add a little bit to it, so they need some space to do that. So it's always good to leave a little bit more space. And with Twitter, again, you have to really get to the point. You have to make it so exciting that they want to click on it and read more. You also want to make it friendly and personable. Twitter's a lot different to Facebook in that it's short, it's to the point, and people tweet a lot. So there's a lot of tweets out there, a lot more than, say, Facebook posts. So it's good to consider that. The other thing with Twitter you really want to do and you have to do is hashtags. I'm going to go through hashtagging later on, but it's definitely part of content, and if you don't hashtag, you really are missing out. I'll go through some examples of that. The other thing you want to do with Twitter is you need to engage with people. It can't just be, I'm putting a tweet up, I'm putting a tweet up. You need to favourite some stuff, you need to reply to some people, you need to talk on Twitter and engage, otherwise you won't get the reach that you're really looking for. We'll go through that. The other thing with Twitter is they introduce videos, and there's also Twitter advertising as well. So if you want to try a few different things, like say you have events or something a bit spur of the moment, you want to try something different, you can do that with Twitter. I've tried Twitter advertising, some of our clients have not found it as successful as Facebook because it's fairly new and the reach isn't there. LinkedIn is a completely different beast. You can't really write for LinkedIn like you would write for a blog. It's much shorter, and again, it has to be quite engaging or people don't read it. I won't spend too much time on LinkedIn. There's only 1 or 2 people that really were interested in LinkedIn, but I think from a personal perspective, there's 2 main points of LinkedIn. One, you've got a public figure and you really want to present a personality and also show experience, show credibility, those sort of things. And the second thing is you can actually have a company page or organisational page where you have, again, credible information, links. You can post articles, that sort of thing as well. So with LinkedIn, we will go through a few more tips later on in the presentation for that. This is just an example of an article that I put out onto my LinkedIn. So I came across an existing article, but then I wrote my own spiel on it. So anything that you put out that is someone else's material, of course you're crediting it, but you also want to put your own spin on it. Why did I find this interesting? Why do I think you guys will enjoy this article? So just writing a bit about it and hashtagging as well. Hashtagging is still good for LinkedIn as well. A few of you have Instagram, so I definitely had a look. I have seen Instagram be quite successful for government because people love to share images, and there's a lot of beautiful things about the places we live in. There's a lot of pride for the council that you live within in terms of, you've got parks, you've got events, you've got features, you've got a lot of different things to share, and Instagram is often a really great way to do that. So we did have a lot of people ask for us to go through Instagram, so we will. But in terms of writing for Instagram, it's very short and it's hashtag heavy. And we're going to go through hashtags on that. But the main thing with Instagram that's different to the other mediums is you can be a bit more fun. It's more about personality, it's more about sharing, it's more about art, food, people. It has to be photo friendly. I won't go through Pinterest because we don't have time, but if you guys are interested in learning a bit more about Pinterest, we do have information about that. You can check out our Pinterest page as well. With YouTube, we will go through that in quite a bit of detail. So YouTube's obviously more video content than it is the actual writing. But it is important to consider that the way that you label your videos and tag your videos will mean the difference between being found and not being found. So it is really important to consider the title of your video, the description that you give it, and the tags that you put in there. It's the same principles as search engine optimization. You want to put a good amount of keywords and content in there. Some of you will have blogs on your website, otherwise you might have news. The difference sort of between blogs and news is a bit longer. Blogs are a little bit more to the point, a lot of links and they're just written a slightly different way. With blogs, you want to keep it concise, let's be to the point, lots of bullet points, those sort of things. Ali really did give a good explanation of how to write content, which is quite applicable to blogs. The main thing is it's got to be informative. And the last 2 slides that Ali did, there was the questions from Google. You need to ask yourself, is this just a fluff piece? Is it actually relevant? Is it believable? Is it credible? Otherwise, don't write it. So in terms of planning your content and planning for social media, there's a few things that I would suggest. And if you do engage with us on social media and win, these are some of the things we'll do for you. Basically consider the goals, what you want to achieve for different departments, what you want to achieve overall, what you want to achieve in each particular medium for social media, and also what is appropriate for you to achieve those goals. It may not be appropriate for you to have a Facebook page. It might not work if you're not going to update it and if you don't have the resources. The other thing you want to consider is the type of messages you want to put out there. As Ali mentioned, you want to have a consistent voice. If you have someone writing like a 14-year-old girl, and then you have another sort of macho voice, it's not going to really gel well together, so you need to be consistent. You also want to have a content plan and a calendar. Someone in the room had asked me about how to plan content, so I'll go through that. And you want to have a keyword focus. So I know that we're not focusing primarily on ranking in Google or anything like that, but we do want to consider what keywords are important. In terms of your area, in terms of community, in terms of initiatives, what do you really want to be searchable, and consider that those keywords, those relevant items in what you're writing. You want to consider your branding and your personality. Sometimes it's helpful to consider if your council was a person, what famous person, or several famous people, who would they be? And then sort of work out back from there what sort of personality, how they would talk, what they would say, that sort of thing. You want to consider guidelines and user restrictions. If you're worried about someone in the marketing department who gets on wines on Friday night writing some crazy things on social media, you need to put some guidelines in place that that doesn't happen. And you want to monitor a schedule and an approval process. So what I do is we have at least 3 people that see our Facebook page, and we do check it regularly. And if I see that one of them has made a typo or a spelling error, I'll go in there and fix it. So you've got sort of safeguards for that. Okay, you may not be able to see this, but I'll go through it. This is just an example of how you can plan your content. So I'll talk you through it. So basically, along the top, I've got different platforms. I've got different categories of what's going to happen with those platforms. So for example, with monitoring, Facebook, I said, I or someone in our team will check it morning, lunch and evening. And then I put who is responsible for doing that. With Twitter, we check it daily, or it might be hourly, depending on what sort of Twitter you've got. With Instagram, we just put sort of when you need to check them. And that's based on how fast-paced they are. If there's any risk of trolls or anyone doing anything weird there, then you want to be all over that. The other thing you want to have down is what sort of response time is there. You don't want someone posting a critical council question on your Twitter and no one answers it to the next day. So you need to have that monitoring in place, and then you need to work out how you're going to respond. The other thing you want to consider is original content versus non-original content. So what I mean by that is you might be reposting, an article from The Age or from a newspaper that you think is relevant. So how often are you going to do that? Compared to how often are you going to write a human interest story on someone in your council or a business or something that's happened or an event. So you need to consider how much original content you can produce, non-original content, etc. In terms of reach, the original content is 75% more effective in reach. We've posted awesome articles from other sources, but they don't get the reach that if we do something original or something human interest. So it's definitely something to consider. And the other thing you want to consider is your strategy for more likes or more followers on each of those mediums. What are you going to do? And I'm going to go through some tips on that. Now, the next slide is an example of a content calendar. So, for Facebook, what are you going to do each day? So it's not just we're going to update it 3 times a day. You can actually have a particular plan. So for example, at 10 a.m. on Monday on Facebook, we're going to repost a news link. Because at that time, there might not be that many people there, but at least we've got something happening. At 1 p.m. we want to do our human interest story, and I'll go through sort of when's the best times to post. At 3 p.m. you might want to do council updates. You know, certain days you do different things. You might do a cute and furry animal on Friday afternoon, whatever you feel is going to reach your audience. And there's no perfect science to it, it's just trial and error. So you can actually see your stats and see what's working at what times. So in regards to an annual or monthly content plan, this is just an idea. But one of the things we do is we have a look at all the major events that are coming up, and we make sure that we have a special banner or a special design done for those events. So you can tie in your council news to say Mother's Day, bake-offs, or whatever it is, to a particular day. And there's some weird days out there. There's like Bubble Wrap Day and Nutella Day and Tell the Truth Day. There's even Chicken Dance Day coming up. So if you connect with our Facebook, you'll see one of our staff doing a chicken dance. If you've got any questions, just make sure you text them through. I'll definitely go through them at the end.